Okay, let's dive in. Today we're tackling, well, a really monumental confrontation. It's Soviet state science hitting a wall, basically. The impossible.
And that impossible had a name. Ninel Kulagina.
Exactly. A woman whose reported abilities, things like psychokinesis, moving objects with her mind, but also stranger things. It forced the Soviet scientific world, right in the middle of the 20th century, to face phenomena that just shouldn't exist according to their physics.
Yeah, and our sources for this are pretty solid, considering the circumstances. We're talking Soviet-era records, high-level scientific reports, personal accounts from the actual scientists who were running the tests on her.
Right. So our mission today is to unpack what the documents say happened. What were her abilities, how rigorous, or sometimes, let's face it, how chaotic was the investigation, and what was the sort of cultural battle going on around her?
It was definitely a battle. And, for millions of people, this wasn't just some rumor. There was a key moment, wasn't there? April 1988, Central Television.
Oh yeah, the broadcast, millions saw it. Kulagina, live on TV. She puts her hands near, not touching, a gold wedding ring, some matches.
And they move across the table, just like that.
For the public watching, that was proof. Like, okay, this is real. But for the official scientific community, it just dug the trenches deeper, didn't it? Made the skeptics even more determined.
That's really where the battle lines were drawn. You see, Kulagina was under constant attack in the press for years, decades really. The labels stuck. Mystifier, charlatan. The establishment desperately wanted this to just go away.
But the evidence kept coming. I found this one detail really striking. It shows the immediate impact. A physics teacher from Kharkov actually wrote to Pravda Ukraini.
The official newspaper.
Right. Asking for help, basically. Saying, how do I teach basic mechanics now? His students had seen the Kulagina broadcast. They didn't believe the traditional explanation anymore. He was literally having trouble teaching the state curriculum because of what people saw on state TV.
That teacher's problem perfectly reflects the split in the academic world. On one side, you had influential skeptics, like Andrianonkin. They were trying so hard to explain it away using conventional physics.
Like what? What was their explanation?
Well, they'd say maybe it's tiny controlled magnetic pulses she's emitting, or static electricity, electrostatic charges, something mundane, just boring old electrodynamics that we haven't quite measured properly yet, trying to normalize it.
Okay, trying to fit it in the existing box.
Yeah.
But then came the counter-argument, a big one.
Huge. From academician U.B. Kobzarev, this wasn't just any scientist. He's a hero of socialist labor. Hugely respected. He did his own tests.
And he gave Kulagina something pretty remarkable, right? A written statement.
A written security certificate, essentially, and it was a bombshell. Kobzarev stated, flat out, that the phenomenon cannot be explained by the emergence of electric and magnetic fields.
Wow! Directly refuting the skeptic's main argument.
And then he went further. He wrote that studying her ability, this weird force, may lead to fundamental discoveries, no less significant than the theory of relativity and quantum mechanics.
Okay, hold on. That's an enormous claim. Comparing a woman moving matches to Einstein and Planck. How did he get away with that? Didn't his colleagues just tear him down? That sounds almost like scientific heresy at the time.
Oh, they certainly tried. But Kobzarev wasn't easily dismissed, and he claimed to have the data from his own observations. Plus, you have to remember the context. Skepticism wasn't purely scientific, it was ideological too.
How so?
Well, prominent figures, like the TV science host S.P. Kapitsa, they publicly linked the public's fascination with psychics, UFOs, all that stuff, to periods of societal stagnation, or even decay.
So for them, Kulagina wasn't just possibly fake. She was a symptom of something wrong with Soviet society itself, regardless of the physics.
Pretty much. She was a cultural problem, a sign of irrationality taking hold. Meanwhile, though, the actual lab experiments continued in state institutions.
Right, so while the ideologues worried, the physicists were still running tests. Let's get into those specifics. What else could she reportedly do, beyond moving the ring and matches? What were the verified effects?
The list is pretty long, actually. It went way beyond simple telekinesis. The reports mention dermal vision, seeing with the skin, telepathy, clairvoyance, causing remote burning sensations, something called psi-conductivity, even psi-photography, and altering water chemistry.
Okay, let's take dermal vision. That sounds like the Rosa Kuleshova case, reading text blindfolded.
It started similarly. Kulagina could identify colors, read print, all while wearing a thick, completely opaque blindfold, usually a woolen scarf. But here's where it gets, well, weirder.
Weirder than seeing with your fingers.
Yeah. It wasn't just her fingers. Reports say she could do it accurately using her elbow, or the sole of her foot, even her chin.
Okay, that's bizarre. How did they test that rigorously?
The definitive test, the one that really broke the known rules, involved eliminating light completely, not just blocking sight, but testing her in total darkness.
Pitch black?
Pitch black. And they sealed the colored paper sheets inside light-tight envelopes. Double sealed sometimes.
And she could still do it. Identify colors inside sealed envelopes in the dark.
According to the reports, yes.
Yeah.
Successfully. Which, if color vision depends on light hitting photoreceptors, that's just physically impossible by our current understanding.
Violates basic optics. Okay. What about the telekinesis, the object moving? How did they lock that down against fraud claims?
They got quite meticulous, placing the small objects, matches, rings, sometimes heavier things like cigar cases under sealed glass or plexiglass domes.
To stop claims of hidden threads or blowing on them, right?
Exactly. Eliminate air currents, eliminate threads, and make it clean. They also brought in objective tools, precision scales.
To measure the force.
Precisely, to get numbers. And they documented she could exert a measurable downward force. In one famous test, she apparently kept a 30-gram weight effectively levitated or countered by her force on the scale pan for about 5 or 6 seconds, actively fighting gravity.
Wow. Measurable force. But didn't one test fail in a really interesting way? Something about a vacuum?
Ah, yes, that's crucial. When they put the objects under a partial vacuum, pumped out most of the air, she couldn't move them.
So whatever force she was using needed air. It wasn't acting directly on the object through empty space.
That's what it strongly suggested. Some kind of medium, likely the air itself, was necessary for the effect. It wasn't pure mind over matter in a vacuum. It needed something to push against or transmit through.
Which hints at some kind of field or energy interacting with the air, maybe. Did they get any closer to figuring out what that was?
Well, it ruled out simple magnetism or static in a straightforward way, especially given Kobzarov's statement. The vacuum result pushed them towards investigating the nature of the interaction, leading to some even stranger findings.
Before we get to those, we need to talk about the physical toll on her. This wasn't effortless, was it?
Not at all. The reports consistently describe severe physical symptoms during or after intense experiments. Dizziness, nausea, sometimes vomiting, intense fatigue, sharp pain in her spine and head.
And her vital signs.
They monitored those closely. Her heart rate could apparently shoot up to 220, even 240 beats per minute during the peak effort, which lasted maybe 8-10 seconds.
That's incredibly high. Dangerously high.
Absolutely. And they documented significant weight loss, around 500 to 700 grams, over a pound per hour of sustained experiments. This wasn't just sitting there concentrating. It was a massive physiological event. It argues strongly against simple trickery.
That level of physical stress is hard to fake. Okay, so what about the other weird effects? The burning effect.
Right. This was the ability to cause sensations of heat, redness, and sometimes actual blisters like second-degree burns on someone's skin remotely, or by touching an object like a cold piece of metal placed on the skin.
But was it actually heat? Did they measure the skin temperature?
They did. And this is the first major paradox. The skin temperature barely changed. It rose maybe 1 degree Celsius, well within normal fluctuations. It definitely wasn't a thermal burn caused by heat transfer.
So no heat, but real blisters formed.
Yes. And when they analyzed the fluid inside those blisters, they found something astonishing.
What?
The pH level had plummeted. It became highly acidic, less than pH 3.
Less than 3. That's like vinegar or even stronger, isn't it?
Exactly. Highly corrosive, appearing on the skin almost instantly with no heat involved. A chemical burn, seemingly induced remotely or through minimal contact, violating basic chemistry and biology as we know it.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. No heat, but acid burns. What about psi-conductivity, making air conduct electricity?
This is the second huge physics violation. The setup involved 2 metal plates like a capacitor spaced apart in the air. Normally, air is a great insulator.
Right, you need huge voltage to make a spark jump to ionize the air.
Precisely. You need about 33,000 volts per centimeter to break down air's resistance. But in experiments with Kulagina, they connected the plates to a simple 9-volt battery.
Just a standard battery.
Yep. And when she focused her effort between the plates, spaced about 15 millimeters apart, a measurable current started flowing, at least 200 microamperes.
With only 9 volts, that shouldn't be possible. It should require tens of thousands of volts.
It shouldn't. It implies that somehow the air between the plates suddenly became conductive, like a wire, overcoming its natural insulating properties by orders of magnitude, using almost no voltage. She was somehow creating a psi-conducting channel.
And did shielding stop it? Did they try to block this effect?
They did. They built this homemade device, basically two plexiglass cubes nested inside each other, and sealed the metal plates inside.
So sealed in plastic and insulator.
Double sealed in plastic.
Huh.
And the effect still occurred. She could still make the current flow between the plates inside the inner cube. They even nicknamed the device the Witchescope.
The Witchescope. That name says everything, doesn't it? It's like the physicists were throwing their hands up, moving from formal science to something else. They were witnessing something they just couldn't explain with their instruments or theories.
It really captures their frustration and bafflement. And then there was sci-photography. Fogging photographic film kept inside light-tight packaging.
Like an X-ray effect.
That's what they might have thought initially. But the really confusing part came when they layered the film. They'd package maybe 4 sheets of film together, one on top of the other, all sealed from light.
Okay.
After Kulagina focused on the package, they'd developed the film. But instead of seeing the same shape or density of fogging penetrate through all 4 layers, like an X-ray would,
What did they see?
each layer showed a different pattern. Different shapes, different densities, different areas of exposure.
That doesn't make sense for simple radiation passing through. What did they think was happening?
The interpretation was that whatever this bioplasmic energy or substance was, it wasn't just beaming straight through. It seemed to be moving laterally, maybe spreading along the edges between the layers, or interacting differently with the emulsion on each sheet. It wasn't behaving like any known radiation.
This is just layer upon layer of phenomena that defy easy explanation. But connecting it back to the real world, the institutions, despite all this data, things got ugly, didn't they? There were cover-ups.
Absolutely. The atmosphere around the research became incredibly toxic.
Yeah.
Take the experiments at the Metrology Institute. They insisted on really strict control protocols, which is fine. But then the official report, the protocol document, was apparently never formally signed off on. They wouldn't release it to Kulagina or her advocate.
I buried the results.
It seems that way.
Okay.
And later, reports surfaced, possibly leaked or altered, containing completely unsubstantiated accusations against her, like she had a hidden magnet, or she was just pulling the tablecloth subtly. Things the primary researchers had already ruled out with domes and controls. It points towards active suppression.
And what about the psychological element? You mentioned belief earlier.
That was critical. The sources consistently emphasized Kulagina needed a favorable psychological atmosphere. It wasn't just about her own state of mind. Researchers noted repeatedly that if even one person in the room harbored strong secret skepticism or doubt, her abilities would often just fizzle out.
The phenomenon itself was sensitive to the observer's belief. That makes objective testing incredibly difficult, doesn't it?
Extremely. How do you control for the hidden thoughts of the experimenters? It adds another layer of complexity that science wasn't, and perhaps still isn't, equipped to handle. Objectivity itself seemed conditional.
So wrapping this up, what's the scientific legacy here? We have decades of experiments documented in state labs, places like Litmo, Izmarin, Moscow State University. Yet the force remained unexplained.
Completely unknown in its fundamental nature. That's the core tension. You have objective, repeatable phenomena, verified by top Soviet institutions using their best methods at the time. Burns without heat, conductivity without voltage, forces acting through insulators, weird magnetic anomalies near her body they can measure but couldn't trace to a physical magnet.
All contradicting established physics.
Flatly contradicting it. The facts were there, documented. But the institutional response wasn't, wow, let's figure this out. It was largely skepticism, suppression, and trying to fit square pegs into round holes. It powerfully backs up academician Kobzarev's call for a new scientific paradigm.
It's really a stark example for you listening of how hard facts, repeatable observations can run smack into the wall of established knowledge. The data was piling up, sometimes violently in terms of the effects, but the explanation required a leap, an acceptance of the unknown that the system, perhaps partly for political reasons, just wasn't ready to make.
And it leaves us with a really provocative question, doesn't it? If one person, through sheer biological effort, could demonstrably change the electrical properties of air so dramatically and alter fluid chemistry to become corrosive, what does that imply about the untapped potential of human bioenergy? What does it say about the fundamental interactions between consciousness and matter that our current physics might be completely missing?
It suggests there could be forces, interactions happening right under our noses that our current scientific framework simply isn't designed to see, perhaps because we've decided they can't exist. The Kulagina case forces us to ask, what else are we not seeing?